The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue 𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐯. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today. It is Mayan Lopez, daughter of comedy legend George Lopez. Together, they star in Lopez versus Lopez on NBC. Very funny show. Just finished season 3. Sue? Well, I don't think we've done this in a while. Just kind of a big, rambling, wide open start to the show. What's going on?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we just haven't had a chance to talk about this.
Yeah.
I go to 24-hour fitness to swim, probably three times a week.
All right.
And after I swim, I take a sauna.
Okay.
And usually when I go with one of the people from my tri group, this woman. And it's a co-ed sauna.
Co-ed sauna, okay.
So we walk in, and there's a guy sitting kind of diagonally across from me. There's 2 levels of seating. So he's on the higher level above me. And then there's a guy behind me. And I'm just going to paint the picture. So it's a black guy who's up above. And then there's the white guy who's very beefy, kind of looks like somebody who maybe had been cast in Mississippi Burning, okay?
Oh, really? Okay, got it.
Very just like anti-everything, you know?
Anti-everything. Not to pass judgment, but anti-everything.
Well, anti-women, I'll get into it. So anyway, so we walk in there, and the black guy is playing music very, very loud, and it happens to be jazz.
Okay.
So you don't play music in a public sauna, and it's loud.
So what do you have, like a little Bluetooth speaker, or?
Well, I didn't see exactly what he had. I thought that it was on his iPhone.
Yeah. Because
he had a towel. He was holding something, and he had a towel around it.
Okay.
So I said, do you think maybe you can just turn the volume down a little bit? And he said, what, you don't like jazz? And then the guy behind me, is like, what, you don't like jazz? So he's just yapping behind me.
Right.
And I said, it has nothing to do with the style of music you're listening to. It's the volume of the music. And the fact that you're playing music out loud in a sauna.
Sure.
And there's 5 other guys there, and they all have earbuds in. So I said to the guy, you have to put earbuds in. He says, well, you should put earbuds in. I said, why should I put earbuds in? I'm not listening to anything. Oh, so is this preemptive? I should come into the sauna with earbuds, even though I'm not listening to anything, just in case someone's playing their music loud?
Yep.
So it's going back and forth, and it's like an all-out fight, okay, in the sauna.
It's an all-out fight.
Oh, just screaming at each other.
No, really?
Oh, yeah. Because the guy wouldn't, and when I asked him to lower it, he said, how much? And I said, just keep on lowering it, and I'll tell you when it's suitable. So I guess maybe 5 minutes go by, and the guy won't lower it.
Okay.
Some other guy walks in, and they ask him, they both jump on the guy with, is the music bothering you? And the guy says, yeah, I don't really care. And the guy, he just didn't want to be involved. He kind of knew he was stepping into something. But he said, so the guy said, just don't tell me to vote for Trump or something like that. And we all kind of start laughing. And then the guy behind me, I just kind of looked at him and I said, well, you probably voted for Trump. And he said, yeah, I did. He's my guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I looked at my girlfriend and I said, this is like insane. They're chastising us for saying that we don't like jazz, which it had nothing to do with it, right? And then they kept on saying, you're the only people who ever complain. And I said, you know something? I don't care how everybody else feels about it.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to listen to music. And then he says, there's no sign outside.
Okay.
And I said, if there were a sign for everything you're not supposed to do in the sauna, the whole wall would be covered. I said, you're not supposed to take a crap in here, but there's no sign that tells you you're not to.
Are these actual conversations that are taking place in the sauna, you and these guys?
Yeah. So I get up and I said, I'm going to go to the front desk and I'm going to complain. So I get up.
Yeah.
And I find, someone at the front desk and I tell him what's going on. And he says, okay, I totally understand. He's not supposed to be listening to music. I'll be there in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Great. I go back. I guess the guy had lowered the music a little bit. Before I left, he lowered it a little bit. When I came back, it was really loud again.
Okay.
And then my girlfriend whispers to me, the guy behind you, he said, he called you a bitch right after you left. And I turned around and I said, you called me a bitch? And the guy says, well, I called you a witch, but you really are a bitch too. I'm like, this is crazy. So we're waiting and waiting. No one shows up. And the fight.
And so how does it end? The fight just keeps going?
It keeps on going. He won't lower his music. And he's telling us that we're disrespectful. And I said, you guys, you can't, it's not your private sauna. I said, so you're being disrespectful. So the guy was still arguing. And then my girlfriend and I, we both leave to complain.
Yeah.
We find that the guy who was supposed to come, I bump into him. I said, what happened to you? I thought you were going to come and help. And he said, oh, I got to get the manager. So he gets the manager. We tell the manager what's going on. He says, I'm going to follow you there right now. We go back. The black guy is now sitting outside the sauna on a bench.
Okay.
The white guy's still inside.
Yeah.
And the guy, you asked me what he was listening to it on. He had an external speaker.
Oh, okay.
All right. So he had a speaker. And I said, oh, so if I bring a boombox in and I start listening to rap and heavy metal, you're okay with that? And the white guy behind me is like, oh, yeah. Oh, we like all kinds of music. And I'm like, oh, you're so full of shit. So I said to the manager, I said, well, here's the guy that was listening to the music. And the guy is just sitting there and he won't say anything. And I said,
yeah.
You were playing music, right? And he's just sitting there. And I said, oh, so you're taking the fifth now that the manager's here? I said, you're not going to admit that you were listening to music? So what turns out is that he tells the guy, you're not allowed to listen to music anywhere, not in the sauna, not in the steam, not on the floor. Oh, and he also, when I left, my girlfriend told me, and this is why I said this guy was like anti-gay. He made some disparaging remark to her and said, why don't you go in the steam where all the gays are? Right?
That's what he said?
That's what he said. And I don't know whether he said that just because he hates gay people or he thought she and I were gay. I don't know why he said it, right?
Right.
So the end result was we went back to the front desk. There's like a higher tiered manager there who knows me.
Yeah.
And we told her what happened, and we had to fill out a complaint. And
oh my God.
And I said, we really felt threatened in there. I mean, these guys were really scary, especially the guy sitting behind me.
Yeah.
And a part of me was like, I don't want to look over my shoulder when I leave the gym to see if this guy is like following me or he's like going to key my car. And she said, you will never, ever have to deal with this with these guys ever again. And I said, okay.
What? They were kicked out of the club?
I don't think they were kicked out, but she said you're never going to maybe she was going to have a conversation with them.
Oh, my God. You totally get involved in shit. You always have. You get involved. I would have just ignored it. All right, a little jazz. Who the fuck cares?
Steve, it was blaring. It was blaring. And I go there because, I swim for like an hour and then I go into the sauna to just decompress and just chill. And, sometimes people talk in there, but they're not they do it at a reasonable pitch.
Okay. So question, why didn't you just instead of going through I'm going to the manager and then I'm going back and then I'm going back to the manager and then I'm going to the higher, why didn't you just extract yourself from the situation and just say, no good is going to come from me being in this sauna today, so I'm just not going to take a sauna?
No, because he was wrong and he needed to know he was wrong. No, really. I mean, why should I have been
Look,
wrong?
I agree with you that he's wrong, but I don't get myself involved in confrontations like this. But you definitely are somebody that gets into confrontations. I will avoid a confrontation at all costs. Like I might have said, hey, you mind turning that down a little? Great music, but you mind turning it down a little bit? Something like that. So that it doesn't turn into a sauna melee, which it sounds like it did turn into.
No, I did. I didn't say, oh, can you shut that off? And I said, can you turn it down a little bit? And that's when they were like, oh, you don't like Jags? They just started to attack us and have these preconceived ideas that we don't like jazz music when that wasn't the point.
Yeah. My God. Do you still go to that gym?
Yeah, I go. Oh,
what happens if you ever see that guy again?
Well, 3 days later, I'm at the gym by myself, and I just came out of the sauna, and I see the black guy, and he's walking towards me, and I'm like, and he just walked. He kind of smiled and walked right by me, and I don't know if he smiled, but I don't know if he didn't recognize me or he just kind of smiled and walked by me.
Yeah.
So,
my God. You are always this, by the way, not the first time you've told a confrontation story. You're good at confrontations.
Well, my girlfriend said,
jump right in.
My girlfriend said, you're a bad influence on me. But she also said, she got involved too.
Yeah.
But I was definitely the leader.
This is why I go to a little personal training gym. I just see the people I know. There's no sauna, there's no steamer, there's nothing. I just go to the workout, leave. It's perfect. I don't like going to those big, gigantic gyms. So I went to this place called John Reed Fitness downtown one day. And I mean, it's got a DJ. I called it the DJ or the disco gym. There's a DJ spinning records. There's so many machines. I couldn't even handle it. I just like going to my little place and doing my and not getting involved. I don't want to be involved in anybody else's shit.
Well, this is the first time that I ever encountered anything as ridiculous as this. Like
at the gym.
My girlfriend, I said, did you tell your husband? And she said, well, this is how I presented it. She said to him, so I'm in the sauna and I'm playing my music really, really loud and hanging out with Sue. And, we're just, and he said, whoa, what? Stop. You were in the sauna and you were playing your music?
Yes.
And she said, no. That's the reaction I wanted to get from you. Someone else was doing it.
Switcheroo.
So, do you think it was okay for this guy to be doing that?
No.
No, okay. You just wouldn't have dealt with it. You would have left.
I just would have, either gone to the steam room with the gays, because apparently there are gays in there, or I would have left the sauna. I'd probably be more comfortable with the gays at that point. Also, I don't think in the steam room you can play an external speaker. I don't think that works. You can't use your phone and stuff in the steam room. So I'd be there.
Right. Well, so he was dumb and offensive.
Yeah, he sounded offensive in many ways. All right. Well, I got happier news. I am going to a place called Cinevita today. We're recording this on Saturday, February 15th, day after Valentine's Day, 12 o'clock when I would normally be on the air anyway. And we're going to this show called Cinevita. It is a Spiegel tent. It's called a Spiegel tent, which is this gigantic circus tent with mirrors and stained glass inside. It's over in Inglewood. And there's this group called For the Record. It's a producing group. And I've seen them do other shows. I saw them do Love Actually at the Wallace Theater. It's a musical version of the movie. I saw them do a tribute to Brat Pack music at some club in Koreatown once. And now they've taken over this entire Spiegel tent. And today I'm going to see the music of Quentin Tarantino and Tarantino movies. I cannot wait for this.
Oh,
so it's
that's
a
cool.
live performance, actors and singing all the music from his song, while there's some sort of loose plot that connects the whole thing.
Well, why is it called a Spiegel tent?
It's a Belgian word that for circus tent. It's just called a Spiegel tent. Yeah. And it's,
Nice.
I guess the thing that distinguishes it, it's got mirrors on the inside and stained glass on the inside. I'm excited to see it. They've got a John Hughes show coming up, and they've got a Martin Scorsese show coming up. So the music of those guys too. So I will have a complete report on an upcoming show. I have a feeling it's going to be just as mind-blowing as 𝐻𝐸.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally right down the block from 𝐻𝐸 in Inglewood. So I'm excited for that. So how much AI do you use? None. Zero. Okay. I've got
AI, like AI if I want to write something, or
AI if you want to write something or look something up or do some research or put anything into AI.
No, I never use it.
Okay. So 88%, according to a new survey, of Generation Z, Zoomers, as I like to call them, use AI to do their jobs for them. Now, on the surface, this may sound upsetting, right? They're not doing their work, but I would argue that it helps them to do their work so they actually wind up accomplishing more work at the end of the day. So you've not even diddled around on AI, on ChatGPT or anything?
I did it once just to see what would come up, but it's not something I use, and I don't use it for anything.
Oh my God, I love...
If I want to write something, comes from me.
Okay. So I just did a little experiment here. Mm-hmm. I asked, write a poem about the Culture Pop podcast.
Right.
Here's the result. From Hollywood tales to stories untold, a podcast where pop culture unfolds. With Sue and Steve, the laughter flows, a dive into worlds where entertainment grows. Celebrities chat their secrets unwind behind the scenes of the creative mind. Movies, TV, and music galore. Each episode leaves you craving more. From sitcom scripts to reality spin, they break it down with a knowing grin. A blend of humor, wit, and thought. A culture fix you never forgot. And what do you think?
It's a poem. It's a poem.
Yeah. It's great. Could you write it? Yeah, I think that's a great poem.
No, I wouldn't have written that.
But if you needed a poem about the Culture Pop podcast, would you not use that?
I would not.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me try an experiment.
It's hacky.
Write a haiku about the Culture Pop podcast. They're short, they're 575.
Yeah.
You know.
I know what a haiku is.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Voices like the air, stories, laughter, culture spins, pop beats everywhere. That's
and then
great.
You got that from AI.
Yeah, I got that from AI right now on the spot.
You think, no, you didn't. Really?
What do you mean, no, I didn't?
Really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
I'm using ChatGPT. What, you want to ask it something?
No.
Let me see.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Write a haiku about Sue.
About Sue 𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐯, stand-up comic. I'll throw that in there. So let's see. Here is the sharp wit, laughter rings, stories told with fearless charm. Sue owns the spotlight.
Oh, man.
Now, you didn't know ChatGPT could do this?
No, I know it can do this. I just didn't know that
it could do it that fast.
Yeah, that fast, and that's what's kind of bizarre about it. Look, I'll tell you something about ChatGPT. I have a girlfriend who is a teacher.
Yeah,
and her son sometimes has a lot of problems with writing reports and doing certain types of homework that are more creative writing. And she encourages it because, like you said, with people who are having AI do some of their job for them, it gets them more engaged. And that's why she champions it for her kid. So it's not like I am totally against it.
Right.
And I understand how a younger generation has embraced it because it's what's here. I mean, if this was here when we were growing up, we'd be
doing it. Right.
So,
but you don't feel like
it.
you don't feel like you want to do it.
No, I don't.
Okay. I just put this in. Write a termination letter for Sue being fired from the Culture Pop podcast. Dear Sue, after careful consideration, we regret to inform you that your role as co-host of the Culture Pop podcast is being terminated effective immediately.
Okay.
This decision was not made lightly.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty quick. I mean, that's really quick notice. That's the quickest pink slip I've ever gotten.
Right. It's almost like you work at the Department of Education.
Oh, wow. Exactly. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. The new administration is taking over AI.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think AI is, I'll tell this story. I think it's okay to tell. So, Juan is an actor, does auditions all the time. And usually I'm the reader. So I'll be the person that reads the other part. Well, he found that AI will now be the reader. You can feed the sides into AI, and AI will actually say the lines of the other person. He doesn't need me to be a reader anymore. AI is the reader. That's the so I have a friend who's an AI expert, and so we talk about writing poems and all that stuff. He said that in the age of AI, that they're going to be able to test you, and if they find that you have cancer, AI will figure out a vaccine that is specifically for you and your cancer. And everybody, when they get, this is down the road, a decade or whatever it is, if you get cancer, it'll be analyzed and AI will be able to come up with a cancer vaccine just for you. That's the real use of AI that we're going to see coming up. I mean, it's going to cure diseases. It's going to change lives. It's going to make a huge difference. And it's also going to write a silly poem. It does all that, Sue.
Right. No, I get that. I guess because I'm in show business and, being a writer, and I have, a lot of friends who are writers,
but I'm not suggesting that you use it to write a script or a sitcom or anything like that. Yeah.
So when it comes to certain aspects of AI, and here's somebody, Juan is using it to have some AI,
just spit out a line to him.
Spit out lines to him, and you just think of what will be and what has been going on with them using AI in situations where you're taking work away from people. So in that respect, I don't like it. And Tom, I don't like it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to continue to use it. It's literally always open on my computer. If I need, no, I won't do this. It has so many uses. I won't tell you what some of them are because it lets you see the man behind the curtain.
Oh, you have to tell me one. You can't just come out and say that.
Nope. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, here. What's a good question for Mayan Lopez from Lopez versus Lopez? Let's see. How was working alongside your father? Well, yeah. How was working alongside your father?
But I mean,
I could have done that one myself.
In some respects, do you think it's a bit of dumbing down using AI?
No, actually, I think it is smartening up. It's knowing what we don't know and using what is available to us. I'll tell you, if you're not using AI, chances are AI is using you. That's my view of it. So,
what does that mean? What do you mean AI is using you?
The next time you get a letter, could have been composed by AI. An email could have been composed by AI. The people around you are using it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, when I get phone calls, it's not a person.
Right. It is AI.
It's AI. So, and that I hate that.
Yeah, it's not all bad though. It's not. There's good stuff that comes from AI.
I'm not saying it's all bad, but the bad part to me is really bad.
I was just about to put on some jazz music really loud.
All right. Well, I'm fired, so I'm leaving right now.
That's right. You've been terminated in just a few swipes of the computer. All right. Last thing, and this is a great one. Variety released a list of the 100 greatest performances of the 21st century. So since 2000. And I think their list is really, really good. Their number one choice, and the catch here, Sue, is that it can only be one performance from each show. Okay, so like for example, number one is, and totally deserving, number one is Julie Louis-Dreyfus for Veep. It makes complete sense to me. But nobody else from Veep can be in this list of 100 greatest performances. So you got to pick out basically the greatest performance from each great show. So any problem with Julie Louis-Dreyfus at number one?
No, not at all.
She's a genius. I love that show. I love that character. All right, number two, and this one's tough. Jeremy Strong from Succession. That means no Kieran Culkin, no Brian Cox, no Sarah. I want to call her Sarah Shiv, Sarah Snook. No Matthew McFadden. None of those guys. It's Jeremy Strong. Let me ask you this first. Do you think Jeremy Strong's performance was your favorite on that show?
No.
Yeah, mine was Kieran Culkin.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Tom character.
Matthew McFadden. Yeah.
Matthew McFadden. They were my two favorites. And I have to say, I think Matthew McFadden was my favorite on the show.
You know, he was also mine. He kind of always got over on everybody. He was sneaky. He got over on everybody and ended up running the company at the end of the day. Let's see. Number three on this list is, where am I here? Number three. I'll tell you, let me start with number four. Number four is Lisa Kudrow for a show called The Comeback. Have you ever seen it? I think it is one of the funniest half-hour shows I have ever seen. Do you think, and she played a character named Valerie Cherish, do you think that performance is one of the 5 greatest in the 21st century?
I don't.
I do. I am so glad that performance got shouted out because that show makes me laugh. I'm going to go back and watch it again. I think it's on Max. Number 3, by the way, Elizabeth Moss for Mad Men. She's terrific. Not my favorite. I mean, I think John Hamm is Mad Men. That would be my favorite character on that show. I mean, he's in the credits to the dang thing. Do you have any problem with Elizabeth Moss at number 4?
No, not at all. I thought she was phenomenal in that show.
She was great. They're all great on that show. I just would have leaned toward him. Number 5 is this actor named, I think it's Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. Now, I know I'm extremely biased. He's a friend of mine, but to me, that's the greatest performance of the 21st century. If I go back and look at the transformation of him from season 1 until I think it was season 7, I mean, that is one of the great character arcs ever in television. So I would have had that higher, but certainly in the top 5, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you watch The Wire?
I started watching it way after it had already aired, and I only got through a couple of seasons. But the actor that you're talking about, Michael
Kenneth Williams,
he was
plays
phenomenal.
Omar. Just an amazing performance.
Unbelievable. And just the depth of who he was. And he had kind of a soft side to him, but he was not a nice guy, you know?
No. But somehow you still liked him. Not a nice guy, but somehow you still connected with him. It's a great performance. Carrie Coon is number 7 for The Leftovers. An old boss of mine watched The Leftovers, said it's the best show he's ever seen. I have never gotten into it. I do like Carrie Coon. Did you ever watch The Leftovers?
I watched a couple of episodes and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I hear it's great once you're into it. Like a lot of these shows, if you can get a couple episodes in, it kind of sticks, but I have not tried The Leftovers. Number 8, Andre Braugher for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now, have you seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Bits and pieces of it. But
let me tell you something. Andre Braugher is so fucking funny on that show. And he's He's funny because he's a curmudgeon. Zany stuff is going on around him, crazy stuff, and it's his reaction to it. It's a great, great performance. Really funny. And another one that I'm glad just got in there. Number 9 is Reyes Sehorn as Kim Wexler in Better Call Saul. Absolutely.
Yes. I'm so glad she was recognized for that.
Yeah. That means no Bob Odenkirk. That means no Jonathan Banks. That means no Giancarlo Esposito. None of those guys. And means no, the guy I really loved on that show, Patrick Fabian, who played Howard, was great. But yeah, Ray Sehorn had a great character arc also on Better Call Saul. Number 10 is Sandra Oh for Grey's Anatomy. Now, it is in its 66th season now on ABC. I think she was on at the very beginning. I never watched Grey's Anatomy.
Never.
Yeah.
No.
I wonder
I've
why.
liked her. I don't know. It just kind of slipped under the radar for me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and it's still on.
Now, is there anybody that is not on the list that you think should have been on the list for a show?
Well, I named some of them that are like backup people from shows that didn't get picked. I mentioned Jonathan Banks, who was in both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Giancarlo Esposito, who was in both of them.
Right, but I'm talking about performances from shows that were not on the list, like Evan Peters from the Jeffrey Dahmer story. You know,
Did you go through the full 100? I didn't go through the full 100. Did he make the list?
No, he didn't. I was talking about people that I think should have been on the list.
Got it.
You know, like Andrew Scott for Ripley.
Oh, that's a really good one.
He wasn't. Ali Wong, Beef, the guy got it, but her co-host got it. Her co-star got it. Was on the list. I forget his name.
Yeah, we should know his name.
Yeah, what's his name?
He's great.
Oh, Steven Yeun. Steven
Yeun, yeah.
Yeun. And he was great.
Susie Essman made it from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I'm so glad she made it. And, and then I think Super Dave Osborne. I mean,
from the same.
Phenomenal.
What about? Yeah, Super Dave was great. I thought that Leon
JB Smoove. Yeah.
JB Smoove was so damn funny. I mean, Larry himself, so funny. But those are some of them. The list is so long that I have not. There are some of them I just shows I've never seen. Downton Abbey. I don't know from Downton Abbey.
Yeah. Well,
did you watch it?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but Maggie Smith was insanely good in it.
Yeah, and a bunch of Shogun is in there. Barry is in there. Sarah Goldberg from Barry is in there. And that's another one where you could have gone with
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, right.
And Anthony Carrigan.
and Stephen Root and a lot of great characters. So it's an interesting article. It is in Variety. If you've never seen the show The Comeback, I strongly recommend it. Anything you want to recommend from any of the shows that we just mentioned, Sue?
No, but I do want to mention one other show that didn't get any recognition. That was Righteous Gemstones, because Danny McBride got it for Eastbound and Down. That's what they picked him for. And Edie Patterson she got robbed from not being on this list. She is
so damn funny.
Yeah. There's nobody funnier than her.
So weird. I've tried to get her on the show. We've tried. And maybe when the show comes back, we'll get her.
Well, I hope we'll get her. I think I have some ins there. So
good.
Hopefully we'll get her.
All right. Well, there you have it. 100 greatest performances in the 21st century on television. You can check it out in Variety. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit the like button. We love it when you do that. You can subscribe to the channel down below here. Leave us a comment, a review, a show idea. The greatest television performance of the 21st century. Sue's experience in the sauna. You want to react to that, whether you like jazz music or don't like jazz music. Sue apparently does not.
One thing also, if you want to ask, since you terminated my job here.
That's right.
I want you to put into AI who should replace Sue Kalinsky on the Culture Pop podcast.
You want me to do it right now?
I do.
Okay. Here we go. Who should... Because now I'm in the market, replace Sue Kalinsky on the culture. You got to write out everything. Culture Pop Podcast. All right, here we go, Sue. Hit the button. Let's see. Oh my God. You will not believe this. A veteran comedian and writer with experience in TV, Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm. She would bring humor and sharp cultural commentary. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Carol Leifer.
Carol Leifer is the name that came up. ChatGPT.
My good friend, Carol Leifer.
How weird is that?
Oh, God, I can't wait to tell her that.
That is so funny.
Hysterical.
Oh, by the way, also on the list, do you know Laurie Kilmartin?
Yes.
Wendy Liebman, who I know. Sarah Colonna.
Don't know
from
Sarah.
Chelsea Laley and Judy Gold. There you go.
Oh, boy. Well.
ChatGPT.
Yeesh.
Firing you and replacing you all in one podcast. How about that? Hey, don't forget, you should definitely, in addition to YouTube, follow us on Apple, Spotify, subscribe to the show. Big points if you leave us a 5-star rating and a really good review. And if you got a friend who's like, I know this show would be perfect for him, make sure you tell them about the Culture Pop Podcast. We're always looking for new listeners, new viewers, all that stuff. Here we go. Our guest today is a social media superstar. In fact, her TikTok account about dealing with her famous dad actually gave birth to a show. She is the star, along with her dad, of the NBC sitcom Lopez versus Lopez, which has just wrapped up season 3. Mayan Lopez is here. Mayan, thanks a lot for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve and Sue. I'm very happy to be a culture maker for
There you go.
at least this time, darling. At least this time.
So the thing I love about Lopez versus Lopez is how real you and your dad are. I mean, the ups and the downs of your relationship, your history together, all that stuff. You put it on screen. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, to reach 3 seasons, anyway, nowadays, and with my dad and it being so close to home and now being that far in where we have fans and I get to hear from them and how it's impacted, their lives. It's really more than I ever could have imagined, but that's, the kind of art that we wanted to create, and we're doing that. And it's a really beautiful thing. I pinch myself.
Now,
and by the way, unbelievably funny. I was going to say, just unbelievable. You touch on some incredible themes, right? And lots of stuff about mental health I want to get into. But I mean, just a very funny show on top of everything else. It's hard to do both, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think I have to remind people when I explain the concept of the show and what it's about. They're like, it's a comedy, right? I'm like, no, it's a sitcom. It's a it's a 30 camera, shoot in front of a live audience, the whole thing. But it's true. We do touch on some real topics and about mental health, generational trauma, alcoholism. But that's just what happens within the light of what is happening for these characters and what's happened for us, just those general themes. I feel very grateful that we have such an incredible team and writers that we do find that part that of classic sitcom, that these characters are kind of able to take care of you and you're able to like sit in those emotions, but we'll make you feel, but we'll take care of you, before the credits roll.
Well, you grew up with a dad who's stand-up comedian, so you definitely were not a stranger to hearing him talk about his life. And I come from stand-up myself, and to me, the best stand-up comes from pain. I mean, that's it's cathartic, but you get up on stage if you are that type of comedian, if you're not like a social commentary comedian or you're doing characters, if you're just doing straight stand-up, it comes from your life. And, Steve and I were talking before you came on, and we both, said to each other, how much of what you guys talk about is authentic?
It's pretty close. I'll say it's pretty close. There are, certain that I've dealt with my dad's alcoholism in real life. And I think there were some moments where in the end of season 1 where we have a intervention for George and we're able to read out letters to him. I never had an intervention with my dad per se, but what my character, who's also named Mayan, I call her Schmayan, I call her sitcom Mayan, or else it just gets really confusing. Um, that it was real what I was saying because I had said certain things like that before. And so I kind of allowed myself to appear there. She is different than I am, but I allow myself to go there emotionally, which I've had a lot of therapy, 'cause which helps because you have to take care of yourself when you're doing subject matter that's so personal. But I commend my dad and I both because we're both having to be incredibly brave putting ourselves out there because he is already, George Lopez, he's known, and this is a new George that a more personal, maybe slightly more to life George than people are used to seeing and knowing him for.
So I'm watching the show, and I had not watched the show prior to knowing you were coming on, and then I wind up watching all of season 3. I just absolutely
Oh,
love the show. So, but the one
I
thing
love
that
that.
comes back to me over and over again is the way your life and your relationship with your dad kind of paralleled my life and my relationship with my dad. My dad was a
Oh,
hard
really?
drinking, hard partying guy. And there were problems in the family. We went through really tough times with him. And ultimately we reached a point near the end of his life, he's passed away, but where we kind of reached peace in the whole thing, where there was acceptance on all sides. And so that's what I took away from your show a lot is that you've kind of made peace with who your dad is and what has happened in the past, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's healing for yourself and it's healing for the relationship. And sometimes I think even with this past that season, George's mother comes back. And so that's 3 generations that are there together in one room, which even that took a lot of spinning plates to bring all of that, breakage together. And that, you can feel sorry, you can have empathy and, forgiveness. You can feel both. Like you can be mad at them, but you can also have, empathy and forgiveness. Like there's both of those can exist. And sometimes I know with my dad, I've had to say sometimes a relationship, that's just all there is. And there's no more to you can just build on who they are and just enjoying what is there and making that as rich as you can. And I think that's something that, Mayan and George on the show, they they've done a beautiful job of, really, watering that. And my dad and I have done that as well. I think we still have things to work on, but we love each other and just like characters, you keep coming back, finding that peace. So it's
So the
beautiful
fact
that you were able to find that.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that it is your real life, are there moments that just kind of happen, like improv moments that happen that I would think are so freeing because it really is your life. So, do you surprise each other sometimes with something that you may say or act towards each other when you're shooting?
We improvise sometimes. I don't think it'll be more like jokes. I think it's rather than, anything very cutting, like that. We stick to dialogue pretty closely to the script. Um, but there'll be, my my dad will be he can't help himself, and I think that's what makes him so wonderful was what happened on the first show is that he'll come to all of us, and he'll be like, "Well, watch this or get ready," and we're like, "Oh, okay." Like we know something's happening, and so we'll like, have to bite our fingers so we don't break or, and he gives us sometimes he doesn't, but sometimes he does, and something will just kind of pop out. So there I think I've been able to be more free as the seasons have gone on because this is the first I've never done television before ever. And then I, came from graduating Second City Conservatory, being on social media, getting noticed, and then being a number 2 on an NBC sitcom.
Yeah.
It was quite a projection, and I was almost learning as I was doing it, but I kind of trusted my training and, learned along the way there. So, now we get to really, really play.
So
And some of it makes it the screen. Yeah.
you're a social media superstar. You've got like close to 1 million followers on TikTok, and I was looking at some of your videos and all that stuff. So entertaining and so funny and insightful,
Well,
the
thank you.
stuff that you put on social. My understanding is somehow this show originated from your TikTok posts. Is that right?
Yes. So some of the TikToks that I made almost 5 years ago now, which is with the pandemic, and it's like, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all in lockdown, and I came on the For You page of our showrunner Debbie Wolf at 2 a.m. So you can't say nothing bad, anything good happens past 2 a.m. I have evidence for that argument. And no, she saw some of the TikToks that I had made and went down the rabbit hole and how it was connected. Oh, she was like, she has a similar experience to mine. Her father was unfaithful. And so she like laughed about, the daddy issues. And she then realized who my dad was because she didn't know that at first. And then she was like, oh, this is a show. And she happened to be a co-executive producer on The Connors, working with Bruce Helford, who was the co-creator of George Lopez. So it was very kismet, kind of how it all came together. We all went into a meeting and we were like, do we have something here? And without any really second thought of thinking, could we do this? My dad and I were just like, yeah, we can do it because our relationship represents, it can be drawn on a lot. And now there's a lot of shows that now with the father daughter or father son, now. So it's families is bankable, honey, it's like family dysfunction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you were growing up, how old were you the first time you saw your dad do stand up?
I was actually 21 years old. I did not see him until I was in college. Because his material is very different than, I think of it like Bob Saget, how he was, Full House dad, and then his stand up, like people didn't know. It's the same thing with my dad. He was a sitcom TV dad where my mom would see children at his stand up shows, and they'd be like, "Do you know who?" She would try to go up to the mothers and be like, "Do you know that this is the stand up?" And she goes, "Oh no, he's heard worse." And then they'll leave with their kids. So I think it was that I didn't get confused or hear my dad say, the raunchiness of some of his act. And but it was really beautiful thing to see that I saw him at the United Center. Um and at that point I was like, oh, I get it now. Like it all kind of came together. Obviously I knew my dad was an incredible stand-up comedian, and people coming up to me now, with his jokes, I'd just be like, yeah, I know exactly that one. Um but no, it made me realize, I'm like, oh, that's why. And he just did his last stand-up special also. So I was able to be there, and I actually, introduced him. So it was a really beautiful full circle
That's
moment.
cool.
Mhm.
The first time you saw him, was there any material that made you uncomfortable? Because I don't know, because I know your parents split up, so I don't know the timing of if they when they split up. So did he talk about
And
you? Did he talk about you? Did he talk about your mom in his act?
yeah, he's talked about my mom. That's another weird thing about, being the child of it. It's like, how much is it true? Um, yeah, no, but I think the biggest thing was that, he used he simulated his a microphone to be, a certain part of his anatomy,
Sure.
let's say. Yeah, without trying to be, PC here. So that was something very jarring where I was like, oh, never wanted to ever imagine that. And you're doing that for that 10, 15,000 people right now. And that's just, I was with my friends. I'm like, yep, my dad's using a microphone to be his dick. That's
Yep.
that's
Yep.
just that's just part of the job description. And I'm like, yep, that's my dad's day job. It's pretty cool. Like, but it's funny, and to my parents like met at the ice house. And so even my mom had her baby shower for me at the Laugh Factory
It's great.
on Sunset. So I always just think that I am a comedy baby, through and through. Like it was just always going to be around there. And I'm very grateful to, now that he's kind of taken a step back, he's been doing it for over 50 years now since he was, which, it's a beautiful to be there with him. Like it's on Amazon now. So it's a beautiful thing.
So
And
your
you went
dad
out
is like, he's
sailing.
iconic, right? I mean, your dad
Mhm.
is an icon. I'm wondering if being around him, and I saw you at the Jennifer Hudson show last month, and that was the original stage where the George Lopez show was shot,
Yes.
right? Which is really cool. Did you pick stuff up by osmosis? Did your humor and your sensibility come in part from being around your dad?
I think so. And also, my both my parents are hilarious in their own right. I think I'm equally my mom and my dad. My dad is a very quiet person where he'll just kind of say something and then you'll realize how funny it is. My mom is very loud, so I'm kind of a little bit of both, but definitely through osmosis, being on set and watching like the stand up and even just also I like to think that sometimes it was always Lopez versus Lopez is that growing up sometimes the only way that I would give my dad feedback or a way he would listen was through a really like cutting joke. And
Hmm.
so I think almost he taught me a good back and forth with him where, I would be able to, I maybe wouldn't be able to tell him if I told him like this, but if I told him through a joke, that's how he would listen. And so that was almost a way that we were able to communicate. Weirdly, was through joke telling. And so I think that was one of many ways that through osmosis that and just through practice that I was able to watch him, hearing him, just I used to always get in trouble in school a lot of the time because I had to kind of create a filter. And my dad was like, "It's genetic." Like something would just pop into my head and I would say it and laugh, which helped me. I studied at Second City and Groundlings, and my mom put me into improv classes very early because I found my own path of comedy. It wasn't, I think now I'm looking into doing stand up as a tool, but I knew that I found my own lane and I was able to get my own training in the way that was comfortable to me. So watching Saturday Night Live and, just really studying the greats as well.
So I would think being the daughter of a comedian and especially your dad, like you talk about, getting in trouble and being able to kind of dish with him. I guess there's something so liberating being his daughter that this is something that he would probably say, "I'm so proud of her." You know what I mean? She got me, you know?
Hmm.
She told a great joke and
I
got
know I
me.
do. I know I do a good one when he's silent. Like
Ah.
if he doesn't have a comeback, he'll just give me a look like, and I'll be like, I got him. Like, oh, okay, that was really good. Like that was really good. So and that'll happen. Sometimes. Um, it happens more often, and he'll just be like, he'll just say my name, and hey, one word or nothing from George Lopez. I'll be like, I'll take that, any
Well,
day. That
he created it.
exactly, exactly. I used to get my mom would be like, that was mean, Mayan. When I was like 7 years old, I'd be like, mean but funny. And my dad would be like, right. And my mom would be like, George, like, don't encourage her. But, good thing that I was able to, good thing it did. It found its
So,
way.
random side trip here. You mentioned Saturday Night Live. The 50th anniversary thing is
Mhm.
going on NBC,
Yes.
and you have an improv background. Who are your favorite Saturday Night Live cast members? Who jumps out
Oh,
at you when I
man.
ask that question? It's really
You,
tough.
it is tough. Like I was just watching on Peacock they have a lot the documentaries. They
So
have some
good.
docs like of the writers, the weird year, which was 1985 of when it
Yep.
almost got canceled. And I think it's always that your cast of when you first started watching is like, I always think of like Kristen Wiig, but you know, I think of like Phil Hartman was one of,
Oh, so
like
good.
Jan Hooks. Like I
Yep.
think of, I mean, Gilda Radner. I have a Rosanna Dana like doll that my mom, got
Oh,
me, and
that's so cool.
I have it upstairs. And, I think of, oh God, there's so many like Tina Fey, Molly Shannon, Sherry O'Terry, all like just so many of the women there. Also, like someone that I've been able to s- get to know through business was like Melissa Villasenor, and she was the
Mm-hmm.
first Latina cast member.
Yeah.
And when I was studying in college, like or in high school, that was when she came on, and that was when I was like, I could be on there because there was no one before her. And now I've been able to meet her, and we have each other's phone numbers, and and so it's very, that's also a very, and I was able to tell her, and she was like, oh, she's like, that ages me. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, I know it's a weird thing to be like, you taught me, but you did, and you meant a lot. And that was, I still am a huge fan of Saturday Night Live, and I've always wanted to be on NBC. Like, I truly believe in, manifestation. Every time I would go to New York, I would have my mom take me to 30 Rock, and I'd be like,
Yep.
that's gonna be my office. Like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna work there. And then I remember, and then a commercial for Lopez versus Lopez played in front of, Saturday Night Live, and it was
That's amazing.
just, or I would be up on 30 Rock doing a photo shoot, and I just started crying because I was just, it yes, am I lucky with who my dad is? Absolutely, but, it's a lot of work. You don't get They don't put millions of dollars or, behind you. You don't just because I am Georgia Star, I was like, I could have gotten fired. I don't think people realize that. They're like, no, no, no. I was like, I could have gotten reach cast, like still it'd be the classic, you look different,
Yeah, right,
like,
right.
but it's a really beautiful thing to see how we went from not speaking to now being, not speaking for years to now being on 3 seasons and hopefully 4 and beyond that, as many as we're lucky to have. A
So
pretty
the
beautiful
second,
thing.
so the second season, you became an executive producer on the show, right?
Yes, the co-executive producer.
Oh, co-executive producer. Okay,
Yes, getting there. I'm
what?
earning it. I'm earning it. You
Oh,
know.
absolutely. So what changed? What changed from the first season to the second season, getting that title?
Um, I think they started to respect me a little bit more. I think no, but it's true. I think I had to earn it. I had, hey, it's my first show, and I think also through osmosis, my mom is a very talented producer, had her own production company, and I've also heard a lot of conversations and heard a lot of her yelling on the phone to people, which is just like, it's show business. So I saw in front of the camera and behind the camera. So I think that it definitely, doing it was one thing, but I had an idea of what the job looked like. And I think it was, and also with my age, I was like, I was the young kid in there, and it was, I feel very privileged to be like that. But already it was a very collaborative environment. But they're like, "Hey, kid, show what you got." And as like the first season, we were lucky to get 22 episodes, and then the second season, we only got 10 because of the strike. And that
Mhm.
was like, we were a pretty well-oiled machine by that time, but it was every week a lot of pressure to be like, we have to do, every episode has to be a hit.
Yeah.
And my dad said, if I had to pick 10 episodes of George Lopez, I would have to go to different seasons to find 10 really good ones. And we have
Yep.
10 good ones in a row. And that's something that makes me very proud that my first bout, I get to make really great television. And I hope to do that beyond and as I further my career.
So you've had some great guest stars on the show. Mario
Mhm.
Lopez, I saw in the season 3 finale. Chris Estrada from The
Mhm.
Spool was on there. Cheech Marin, Fluffy. Everybody
Yes.
loves Fluffy. And the show's
Yeah.
really a celebration of Mexican culture, I think. You must get an
Mhm.
unbelievable amount of feedback.
I do. I do. I even just went to Dollar Tree at the time of this and just to get some things for a gift, and someone came up to me and she was saying that she's almost started crying, and she was like, until seeing I was able to talk to my dad again, and like, thank you, because I get to I watch this with my kids, and we wait every Friday, and that's our special time together, or people have been able to um come up to me, and hearing that now, it's a really beautiful thing. And I think just seeing yourself is very important. And I think with where the country is right now, the representation is more important than ever. And I think just it's a very powerful thing to see yourself. I saw even my dad being able to do it and noticing how hard that was, and it's still difficult. Um, but I think it makes it easier to a little bit to know that there's space for us, and that we also made it past 2 seasons. A lot of shows about, Latino stories would be canceled after 2. And so after 3, I hope, there's gonna be more shows being, well, hey, Lopez versus Lopez made it past 3 seasons. That means that, we can, I hope that we're an example of, we're marketable. You can make those stories. And it was a beautiful thing. We've had Rita Moreno, and just as like
Yeah.
the Mount Rushmore of Latin talent. And I see it as, they bless us with, and I think, I think the show's absorbed a little bit of that, their magic as well, that it's almost gotten a seal of approval, like with Cheech Marin and Chong, both of them. We sang a song from Up in Smoke. I think it was 1 or 2, but Mexican Americans, and we all sang it at the end. And that was, a lot of people came to us, and they were like, they were just crying and being like, oh my, it's a beautiful thing to make something universal.
Yeah. And I think it also must be really cool that you can lend your voice to causes that you're passionate about. Like I read that you're ambassador for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I would think that that would be such a rewarding perk that has come from all of this.
I made the TikTok that originally started the show. I made that in 2020 when I was actually in a inpatient treatment center, and
Oh, really?
I was getting help for my mental health at that time. And I I was making content, and at that time I was able to have a phone, and I was still trying to find ways to be creative and show, art. And I know I was writing a lot at that time too, and I would always say to myself, like, I want my pain to mean something. Like, I want to put this I have so much. I've stored so much. I've lived a lot of life in my 28 years. I've seen a lot, and experienced a lot. Had to grow up very quickly, and I was like, I want to put it out there, and I think be like, give me an opportunity to do that. And I had a good feeling about posting that TikTok. My mom didn't want me to post it,
Mm.
and I was like, I have a good feeling about it. And so the one that I sent it, and I pressed a button, and my entire life changed. But I think being in a mental health, I want to say that is that your life can change anywhere. It doesn't matter your circumstances or what you're going through. You survived. I like to say I have a lot of like Mayan-isms I call, but you survived 100% of your worst days. And
Yeah.
if I every day got me to where I am, and I know that I've survived worse, and that it kind of makes things going forward, I can only grow stronger. But every day I've proved myself that I'm strong.
Picking up on that mental health theme, I was diagnosed bipolar back in 2000. So it's something I've
Hmm.
wrestled with, something I've dealt with. And I think
Yeah.
one of the and another way that the show resonates with me, obviously, George's mother, Elsa, in
Yes.
season 3 deals with, and you don't hear this talked about in just your average show, borderline personality disorder, and it's handled in such an emotionally mature way. I absolutely love that final episode of season 3.
Yes, I think it was a really beautiful thing, which borderline personality disorder, I'm putting it up I was looking it up because I don't wanna, mess it, but it's, unstable mood, unable to keep relationships, yeah, it isn't a very well understood mental health condition, but it is one where it affects how you see yourself and how you're able to maintain relationships, and that it's I personally know a lot of people with it, and from watching the show, a lot of people I got a lot of messages saying, like, "No, this thank you for accurately representing mental health," which I also think is really important, in if you're gonna show it correctly so
Yeah.
that because I think that's also part of the false narrative is that people get ideas of what therapy is, or you're gonna get addicted to medication, it's gonna change your and I was like, "Well, you can't help brain chemistry."
Yep.
That's something that, changes. You don't get addicted to it. If anything, it changes your pathways for the better. But with showing Elsa, it was a very beautiful scene where they're kind of able but I think what I liked also about that was that we showed it over 3 episodes
Hmm.
where you kinda meet her, and she's super great, and my Mayan thinks George is crazy, but then she starts to see it, and then, I think that was nice to have a three-parter of that, is that it was kind of you got to the audience kinda got to understand and really go through that together until you get that payoff
Hmm.
where it's a really beautiful way of showing it.
By the way, and the episode was still very funny, which I think is the point, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Mhm.
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It's like it is. But, like, we have it I have more family now. We have a very small family, and with my co-stars, I really truly feel like I have family, and, I have incredible actors that I work with, Selena Slava, who's on Orange is the New Black, Matt Shively, Al Madrigal, and then Bryce Gonzalez, who, plays Chance, my son,
Oh my God, he's so
on the
He's
funny.
show,
great. He's so
which
good.
I think it was the end of season 2 where he comes down as dressed as George, and it compl and, he and that was, before a very emotional scene, and then he comes in and it shifts in a second, and it's something of, then he carries it, throughout, and it's a completely different scene, and it can change, and that's something that's really cool about, sitcom is that it can be really heavy, and then there we go, and then you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, I'm not upset anymore, it's okay, everything's
Right.
fine."
Right. Well, it's a real testament to everybody on the show, the writers, the producers, you guys, of course, that you can take these heavy, heavy subjects and treat it with class and comedy. And I
Yeah,
really give you guys a lot of respect for that.
thank you. Yeah, everyone works incredibly hard.
So last thing for you, personal question. I mentioned my dad and the issues that we had over the years, and at some point, I don't know. I have a convenient memory. I just blocked out all the bad stuff, and I just focused on the present. Is that kind of the way you've dealt with things?
I would say yes, focusing on the positives, but I think my brain protected itself,
Mhm.
and it would forget. Um, I remember running into someone, and they hadn't seen me since I was 15, which is when my parents were divorced, and just, like, around the time where I don't remember things. And I asked them out of curiosity, I was like, "So, can you, like, tell me what you remember about me?" And she goes, "There was, like, nothing behind your eyes. Like, you were
Hmm.
just not you were there, but you weren't there. Like, you were." And I was like, "So I was, like, in the passenger seat, not driving?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I thought that was really valuable from someone else that I kind of dissociated, and I was
Right.
able to, go through, life, and to it was survival. I think I've dealt a lot with survival. I think even up until recently, anger got me through a lot of hardship. I
Mm-hmm.
used anger as because that was an energy that I had a lot of, and I almost had to, in the past couple of years, thank the anger because it got me to where I needed to be, rather it was negative self-talk to motivate myself to go to class, or, but it affected my mental health to a point where it didn't serve this version of myself now.
Right. Right.
And I think that's kind of how it helped me with my dad, is that, I was so angry, and I had to just forgive him for who he was. And as I've gotten older, I see why he made certain choices. And, I, even with both my parents, I'm like, I wouldn't know. I don't know what I'm going to do in that situation when I have children someday. So, you guys, everyone did the best that they could. And, I think that's one that I had to thank it, but it didn't serve me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And now I try to, build myself up, which it's been a very long journey over, a decade to do. Um, but it's okay if it's anyone listening. I'm like, it's okay if you're at a spot where you're not there yet. That's completely valid and completely fine. Um, it's your own journey. And so, yeah, to answer your question, it's been a very long way. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely a long way. Um, Not remembering, but I think it takes more energy to be angry than it does to
Yeah.
just let it go.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, I mean, all of it, if you think about it, all of it has led you here. I mean, here you are with, the pain that you've dealt with and the trauma you've dealt with and your dad and get those, and now you've turned it all into this, you've manifested something very healing for yourself and for your family, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
how lucky that you were able to find it when you're still very young. So you can enjoy these so
Yeah.
many years, you have so many years with both your parents that you have so much ahead of you,
Mhm.
which is really, really lovely. And, it's great for everybody, really.
And Lopez
Oh,
versus
thank you,
Lopez
so
is the
yeah.
show. All 3 seasons are now streaming on Peacock, right?
Yes, and the first 2 are on Netflix as well.
Okay, cool. And then, of course, season 4, it's all teed up for season 4.
Yep, I hope so. No spoilers, but yeah, no, we purposely, left it that way where, I think if it's like, come on,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
all
It's
want to
all
see
right there.
what's happening.
Well, Mayan, congratulations on the show. Love spending a little time with you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
There you have it. There is Mayan Lopez. I did not realize that you knew Mayan's mom.
Yes, because she managed George back in the day.
Ah, got it. Got it. Now it makes sense. Yeah, she is. I think the show is terrific. I love the themes. It's a very emotionally mature show. And she's, by the way, I mean, for 28 years old, she's very emotionally mature, I think.
Yes, yes. Very evolved for her years and just adorable. I love her. She's great.
Yeah, she was terrific. Well, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for listening. We will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.